In November 2014, I came across an article online by a major Singaporean publication about the persecution of Christians in Iraq. There were many levels of pain as I read that article. The first was just knowing that somewhere in this world there was a group of people who were being tortured for just being Christians. The second was that this terrorist group was abusing something I held so sacred to myself and validating their horrific crimes with it. The third, however, was a real shocker. It was the commentaries of this article. These were some of the most hate-filled and demeaning comments. And each of these comments was garnering a few thousand likes, meaning there were many people who agreed to the sentiments of these comments, which were not targeted at the terrorists or their horrific crimes, but the Muslim community here in Singapore. And as a member of that community, it hurt, because these were my home people. So I asked myself, what went wrong? We grew up together, we went to the same schools, we celebrated Racial Harmony Day together. So what went wrong? And it was then I realized we had a serious problem. And the more I delve into the work I'm involved in today, the more I realized the gravity of the situation. For the longest time, we have built our foundation for peace and harmony on tolerance. But you see, I have a problem with this word tolerance. The etymology of the word tolerance comes from the Latin word tolenrentia, which is the ability to endure pain, the ability to endure hardship. Like we tolerate Malay weddings under the block, or we tolerate the Chinese burning paper money all over the block, or we tolerate a Hindu procession of music and drums. But underneath this polite tolerance is irritation and simply a lack of interest. How many of us here, apart from the Chinese, are actually interested in Chinese civilization? Or how many of us here in the audience, apart from the Muslims, would like to know more about Islamic arts? Or how many of us would care to know about the Hindu culture? Tolerance is not a strong enough foundation for peace and harmony. And peace and harmony is not now, when nothing is happening. Real peace and harmony is defined after the day of the chaos. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong and a lot of ministers have mentioned that an attack on Singapore is no longer a matter of if, but when. And when can be in a year, when can be in a month, or tomorrow. And I thank God every day that I don't wake up to headlines that we are under attack, or that, there's crazy gunmen killing people in the streets. In fact, I am so grateful that I wake up to headlines on the latest MRT breakdowns, or, Nathan Hartono giving us free Milo. Because I cannot imagine anything happening to us now when we are so disengaged from one another. So, after reading that article, I told myself, I'm not going to let this ignorance go unnoticed. And I wanted to reach out to the people who I felt were most affected by the article, the Christians in Singapore. So I wrote a letter to them explaining the Charter of Rights, which was granted to the Christians by Prophet Muhammad. And it was basically a covenant that the Muslims would protect the Christians. They would fight for the Christians. They would protect their homes, their families, their places of worship, their rights to worship. And this covenant was eternal and universal for all of time. And along with the message of solidarity, I sent it out to over 200 churches in Singapore via email, of course. And the response was positively overwhelming. The next day, I had priests and pastors returning my emails, thanking me for writing it, inviting me to their church to celebrate Christmas with them. But it was this one email which I got that I realized it's not enough. So this lady, she signed off as the secretary of this particular church. And I quote, she said, "Thank you, Noor, for sending this email, because only now I am assured that the Muslims in Singapore do not share the same ideology as ISIS." And I said, wow, she wasn't being vicious or vile. She was just being sincerely honest about her ignorance. So the next year, I got myself trained in interfaith dialogue and scriptural reasoning in Cambridge. And when I came back, I met two very amazing and talented individuals who shared the same passion in interfaith, if not more, and we started Interfaith Youth Circle. We are both an interfaith and intrafaith non-profit entity. And one of our main aims is to create high-quality engagements between people of different beliefs, to create a safe space where we can talk about challenging and controversial issues. A space where we can have a real conversation about our morals, our values, our identity. This world is breaking. It is literally falling apart. Our resources are drying up so fast. There are people dying right now as I speak. And if there's one thing that we all have in common, it is humanity. Humanity to me is love, compassion, and kindness. It is the one thing that we all have in common. It is the one thing that unites all of us. Every human being on this planet has the capacity, not capability, but the capacity to love and to be kind and to be compassionate. And as an interfaith ambassador and a proud believer of my faith, I stand by the fact that humanity precedes religiosity. Humanity first, and then religiosity. And a lot of people confuse religion with religiosity. So humanity is a part of religion. But religiosity is the way you practice your religion. So you can be a believer of any religion, and if your humanity is sound, then so is the way you practice your religion. But if your humanity has a defect or is undeveloped, then so is the way you practice your religion or your politics or the way you live your life, even if you don't subscribe to a religion. So if you're asking right now, okay, so where do we start? What do we do? I say, start with humanity. Start with love. Start with being compassionate, with being kind. Because these are the superpowers of the world today. Never have we been so advanced in science and technology, but so broken and undeveloped in humanity. So start with this. Because we are the heroes with these powers in our possession. And I'll tell you a story to illustrate my point, where I accidentally harnessed these powers. I was 18 at that time, and I was exploring my religion a little further, and I was very inspired by the idea of salam. Now, salam basically means peace, and it is also a greeting. Muslims use it to greet each other. So I told myself, okay, I would want to give salams to every Muslim I meet, because sometimes this salam in some parts of the world, and in Singapore, it comes with an action, a hand, with your right hand. So you either kiss the person's hand, or you bring it to your heart, or you bring it to your forehead. And I thought, okay, I want to greet every Muslim I meet with a salam. And it was easy to recognize Muslims because some of them used a headscarf. So that day, I was going to Bugis, and I thought, perfect, right? Bugis, Arab street, many Muslims. So I'm going to try out this social experiment of mine. And the first person I met on the train, no, I didn't give the salams. It was so awkward because this was a complete stranger, right? So I said, no, I can't do this. But I told myself, you wanted to do this. You were inspired. Go do it. So, okay. Second person I meet, I go, Assalamu alaikum, which is peace and blessings be upon you. And because she was walking past, she replied, wa alaikum salam, but then she walked off. So technically I was cheating because, she was walking past. I didn't do the hand action. So I said, okay, Noor, no. Third person, you're going to do it, hand action, everything. So third person comes along. I walk up straight to her and I go, Assalamu alaikum, and stretch out my hand. Her reaction was immediate. She said, wa alaikum salam, ni anak siapa? Which basically means, peace and blessings be upon you too. Whose child are you? Which basically meant, in the Malay culture, I don't recognize you, but I must obviously know your parents because you recognize me. And I didn't know how to explain to her, no, I don't know you, you don't know me, definitely don't know my parents. I just wanted to give you the salams. So that's exactly what I told her. And she withdrew her hand, and she said, okay, and she walked off. And I said, okay, no, this is not happening. Social experiment is officially over. So I took the train back home, and in the train, one of the stops, an old Chinese lady walks in, walking stick and everything. So I gave her my seat. And she replied in Malay, terima kasih nak, which is thank you, child. And you know how our older generations are multilingual. So I'm going to just translate everything for the sake of time, whatever she said in English. And it was probably because she replied in Malay that somehow I just reacted instantly by giving her my hand to give her the salam. She looked at me for a second, but then she gave her hand. And so I put it, to my forehead. And then I realized what I just did. So then I turned around and just, stood there and just hoped my stop came. And the person next to her eventually got off, and she called me. She said, child, come, sit with me. So I sat with her, and we had a conversation. And honest to God, I don't remember what the conversation was about now. But I remember this one thing very clearly. As she got up to leave, her stop came, so we said our goodbyes, and she got up to leave. But just before the doors closed, she turned around, and she looked at me with tears in her eyes. And she said, child, thank you for taking my hand like that. Because never have I felt so honored as an old person. One of my favorite scholars, he said, if today you have nothing more than a conviction that with your love, with your charity, with your courage, with your mercy, with your nobility, and with your dignity, that you will be a light in this world, you are a hero. You're still harnessing our superpowers for a kinder world. Thank you.